Here's some panicked paranoia about the supposed dangers of atheism.
Well, Dostoevsky, I believe it was in Crime and Punishment, although he makes the same point in many of his books, he makes a very fundamental point, and this is the kind of point that I think that people who haven't investigated these matters down this particular literary and philosophical pathway never grapple with. Dostoevsky said straightforwardly, if there's no God, so if there's no higher value, let's say, if there's no transcendent value, then you can do whatever you want.
That was in Brothers Karamazov, not Crime and Punishment. It's obviously not true, though. As Peterson even says, Raskolnikov's conscience doesn't let him get away with the murder he committed in Crime and Punishment. In many cases, other people won't let you get away with doing whatever you want either.
And that's the question that he's investigating. And you see, this is why I have such frustration, say, with people like Sam Harris, the sort of radical atheists, because they seem to think that once human beings abandon their grounding in the transcendent, that the plausible way forward is with a kind of purist rationality that automatically attributes to other people equivalent value. It's like, I just don't understand that. They believe that that's the rational pathway. What the hell is irrational about me getting exactly what I want from every one of you whenever I want it at every possible second? Why is that irrational?
The only way to maximize the benefits you get from other people is by cooperating with them. Cheating them doesn't work in the long run.
And how possibly is that more irrational than us cooperating so we can both have a good time of it? I don't understand that.
Well, if you look at game theory, iterated prisoners' dilemmas in which people cooperate end up producing better outcomes in the long run for everyone. So cooperation is often effective at maximizing individual self-interests, as well as collective well-being. When people can choose with whom they interact, the most successful outcomes are produced by those who cooperate and reward cooperation while punishing cheaters. Always screwing people over is not in one's long-term self-interest. I'll put a link in the description to a video that explains this in greater detail.
I mean, it's as if the psychopathic tendency is irrational. There's nothing irrational about it. It's pure naked self-interest. How is that irrational? I don't understand that.
Pure naked self-interest isn't irrational. It also isn't immoral if the person acting in their self-interest knows that being a douche really doesn't pay off.
Where's the pathway from rationality to an egalitarian virtue? Why the hell not every man for himself and the devil take the hindmost?
Because that strategy doesn't maximize the benefits to the individual.
It's a perfectly coherent philosophy. And it's actually one that you can institute in the world with a fair bit of material success if you want to do it.
In the long run, it demonstrably is not.
So, I don't see, to me, I think that the universe that people like Dawkins and Harris inhabit is so intensely conditioned by mythological presuppositions that they take for granted the ethic that emerges out of that as if it's just a given, a rational given. And this, of course, precisely not Nietzsche's observation as well as Dostoevsky's. That's Nietzsche's observation. You don't get it. The ethic that you think is normative is a consequence of its nesting inside this tremendously lengthy history, much of which was expressed in mythological formulation. You wipe that out. You don't get to keep all the presuppositions and just assume that they're rationally axiomatic.
But we have the math to show that cooperation is better for maximizing one's own self-interest than an every man for himself strategy, so why do we still need the myths? To make a rational argument, you have to start with an initial proposition. Well, the proposition that underlies Western culture is that there's a transcendent morality. Now, you could say that's a transcendent morality instantiated in the figure of God. That's fine. You could even call that a personification of the morality. If you don't want to move into a metaphysical space, I'm not arguing for the existence of God. I'm arguing that the ethic that drives our culture is predicated on the idea of God, and that you can't just take that idea away and expect the thing to remain intact mid-air without any foundational support. But it does have foundational support. In fact, because game theory is coherent, unlike the idea of a god, it has better foundational support than ever before. But even without knowledge of game theory, I'm skeptical that mythology is necessary to a well-functioning society. Crime rates are inversely proportional to the prevalence of atheism in a population, at least in the US.
Atheists don't seem to be more prone to crime or violence at all. The opposite seems to be true. Since that's the case, it seems pretty counterintuitive to me that an increase in atheism would put the stability of civilization in danger. The evidence seems to indicate that the exact opposite is likely to occur. I'd like to remind you again that I do have a Patreon.